Hello, and welcome to the Amazon Sample Email Service Deliverability Learning Series. My name is Ella. I'm a Senior Cloud Support Engineer at AWS. I help customers to understand the email deliverability best practices with a primary focus on inbox deliverability. Amazon SES is a cloud email service provider that can integrate into any application for bulk email sending. Senders from small startups to large enterprise accounts can use SES to reach their customers, but getting messages to the recipient's inbox over the long term can be tricky. Understanding deliverability best practice and what mailbox provider expect from bulk sender is the key to getting messages to a customer's inbox. Today, we are going to be talking about monitoring the feedback available to senders and how to interpret and take action on that feedback with the purpose of increasing or maintaining your positive email repetition. In this video, we will discuss the various ways of monitoring your email feedback. This includes an overview on feedback loops and complaint data, mailbox provider postmaster tools and dashboards, and email event monitoring. Email event monitoring consists of tracking deliverability and engagement events like opens, clicks, bounces, complaints, and unsubscribes. The ability to identify and analyze key performance indicators that can be used in evaluating how you are doing as a sender across many mailbox providers will help keep your messages following to recipients' inboxes. Sender repetition is a profile mailbox providers build specific to a sender with an emphasis on domain repetition, but can also include and impact IP repetition. Sender repetition will be heavily influenced by how a sender monitors and responds to the email feedback they receive from mailbox providers and recipients. Now, let's deep dive into monitoring complaint and unsubscribe data. Monitoring feedback can take many forms when it comes to a company's email program, and it's important to review them for both positive and negative trends. Looking at direct feedback like complaints and unsubscribes can help identify specific campaigns or campaign series that can be too aggressive in reach, too frequent in cadence, or possibly irrelevant to the end recipient. Identifying where the recipient feedback originated is important to help reduce future spam complaints. Feedback may come from having messages marked as a spam within a mailbox provider who then relays that information back to the sender if a feedback loop exists. There is also feedback in the form of direct complaints sent to an email abuse address listed in the who is information for the sending domain. Understanding the source and reasons a complaint may have been generated is the key to reducing overall complaint rates. Having a recipient unsubscribe from an email, even they are unsubscribing from all communications, is better than having a user click the spam button. Unsubscribes can be a signal of trust from the recipient in that they trust that the sender is who they say they are, but the recipient may be uninterested in the content or topic being sent to them. Only send recipients what they want to receive and what they opted into receiving. This will promote the ability to regularly communicate with your recipients through your company's email program for long-term customer retention. An important aspect of monitoring feedback also resides in list building and long-term list hygiene strategies. The list you use to send your messages and where those recipients originated are critical to successful long-term inbox delivery. Having opt-in records and catering to your recipients' preferences can help you build out your email program, but there is also a list hygiene consideration that have to be made when evaluating the lists you build and send to regularly. If recipients are not engaging with the message, typically identified through opens, clicks, site visit data, application login, or other methods of tracking recipient behavior and interest. Inactivity could be a signal that the recipient is no longer interested in receiving your emails. It typically means that you should not keep them on the active mailing list or part of specific topics within a preference center, requiring you to reduce sends to that recipient. Enabling feedback. The most common mechanism for complaint feedback is the standard feedback loops or FPLs as defined in the RFC 6449. FPLs are the mechanism in which mailbox providers send complaint data to the sender directly with information that could help the sender identify recipients who marked the message as spam. Spam complaint rates are often associated with these FPLs and represent a spam percentage or rate from a sender to the recipient mailbox provider. Often there is a set threshold at which point message delivery is at risk, and that rate is generally 0.3% or higher for spam complaints to that recipient mailbox provider. Many of the large mailbox providers, such as Hotmail and Yahoo, have their own FPLs and feedback mechanisms. Gmail does not send all complaint feedback, but they do expose complaint data as part of their Google Postmaster Tools dashboard. We will discuss the various Postmaster tools and sites related to the largest global mailbox providers later in this video. In addition to individual mailbox provider feedback loops, there are also universal feedback loops available by third-party vendors that cover many of the largest mailbox providers globally. There are also many mailbox providers that do not have standard feedback loops, so understanding how to deal with direct feedback will still be important for senders. Direct feedback is something that all senders should consider. Having an abuse and postmaster addresses for spam complaint feedback or another publicly available abuse handling address is a requirement you need to consider when set up your sending domain. It's better to get the direct feedback from the recipient and take care of the complaint directly than for the recipient to escalate it to a network abuse contact or mailbox provider abuse contact, as those can result in enforcement beyond just your domain and could include network provider level enforcement. Complaints are one of, if not the most important factor when mailbox providers are considering accepting your messages and where to route them in terms of tabs, inbox or spam section. High levels of complaints are an indicator that the mailbox provider recipients do not want the message you are sending, and the mailbox providers will treat sending domains and IPs harshly if they see high ratios of complaints. This is why monitoring for complaints is so important, because you want to not only remove the recipient who marked the message as spam, but also understand the reasoning. For example, let's say a company were to use a list that was purchased or otherwise acquired and it resulted in a spike in complaints and unsubscribes for that email campaign. That increase in complaints and unsubscribes should tell the sender it's not a good idea to purchase lists, and doing so can negatively impact your email program both short and long term. The goal is to identify who is complaining and why they are complaining. Understanding these data points will help you figure out how you can reduce complaints on your campaigns in the future as you create a long-term relationship with your recipients. Taking feedback data and applying industry best practices for complaints handling will help keep your email program healthy from complaints, which will improve overall deliverability. Understanding what your audience wants to receive and what they don't want is also a key to a long-term sender and recipient relationship and should be the goal of any large volume sender. Monitoring engagement data. While email complaints can be the primary reason for deliverability and sender repetition problems, user engagement like opens and clicks can quickly improve and reinforce positive sender repetition. Positive user engagement like opens and clicks indicate to the mailbox provider that the recipients on your mailing list are interested in what you are sending them. The higher the overall user engagement rate is for a sender, the more trust a mailbox provider is going to have when they consider the sender domain or IP repetition. That sender repetition will dictate how messages are routed to the inbox, spam folder, additional tabs, or possibly not at all if the messages start to get blocked. The ideal open engagement rate changes depending on what industry you are in, but a typically starting point is about 20% for marketing messages. Factors like complaints, unsubscribes, or even a high rate of non-engaged recipients do impact deliverability and can cause message delays, placement to the spam folder, or even possibly getting blocked. There can be some trade-off when it comes to engagement stats. For example, if you are seeing lower complaints but are also seeing lower opens and clicks, your messages may be getting routed to the spam folder. So, a decrease in a negative engagement metric like complaints is misleading, which is why you do need to consider all metrics. You will also have cases where you have a higher than ideal complaint, keeping in mind the ideal complaint rate is 0.1% or less, but still delivered to the inbox. For example, your complaint rate might be closer to 0.3%, but if you have a much higher opens rate like 40%, that higher complaint rate is diluted with a much higher opens rate. As a result of the higher opens rate, a majority of your messages go directly to the inbox, which will give more opportunities for recipients to engage, which may lead to the slight increase in complaints. You still do want to reduce the complaints because the ratio does matter, but higher positive engagement does indicate that many of your recipients do want your email. How recipients engage with messages from senders is a big driver of how mailbox providers route messages. Monitoring bounce data. SMTP response data is critically valuable in email deliverability analysis. Oftentimes, when messages are being bounced, the response message from the recipient mail server may include an SMTP message with a code indicating the type of bounce, permanent versus transit, and often it will have information related to the reason of that bounce. Most of times the message will also include how to mitigate the bounce issue or indicate what the bounce actually means. Here is a sample bounce message from Gmail. You can see in the SMTP response message here, in this case, it's a 4-to-1, which means it's a transit error and you can retry your message. If you look into the SMTP response body here, it also indicates the reason for the bounce and then goes a step further by linking to how to solve the issue. In this example, Gmail is saying that they are throttling the messages because there is an unalignment issue with either SPF and or DKIM related to the DMARC policy for the domain in the from header for the sender. Understanding whether your messages are being bounced for an infrastructure reason, configuration, or larger, more holistic aspects of your email program is so important. That information will allow you to focus your efforts on the right approach to resolve the issue long term. For example, the bounce message we just looked at could be fixed with an adjustment to DNS records. This will be much quicker fix than if you have a larger problem with spam, lack of user engagement, or content issues. Another example would be that you have individual mailbox provider issues specific to what you send to that mailbox provider. For example, you may have an issue with Hotmail deliverability but not Gmail, and you want to focus on the Hotmail issue specifically and align with Hotmail sender best practices. Monitoring bounce data can also alert you of the start of problems before they grow into large-scale issues that can be difficult to get out of once negative sender repetition has been established. If you deal with throttling and transient errors as they start, you may resolve the issue before they spiral into a much longer lasting and impactful deliverability problems. If you allow those to go unchecked and unresolved, you may end up with a much larger deliverability issue, including outright blocking of your traffic by specific mailbox providers. Postmaster tools and repetition data. Email sender repetition is comprised primarily of domain and IP repetition. As the industry continues to shift to an emphasis on domain repetition, you will need to utilize dashboards and tools available that can represent these repetition states at both the IP and domain levels. Many mailbox providers offer their own set of dashboard and postmaster tools. Three great examples of this are Google Postmaster Tools GPT, Yahoo's Sender Hub YSH, and Hotmail's Smart Network Data Services SNDS. When reviewing this dashboard information, you can approach it in multiple ways. If you just want information on how you are doing with these particular mailbox providers, the information available in most of these dashboards will give you an indication on how you are doing placement-wise and engagement-wise towards those mailbox providers. If you are trying to figure out when your repetition dropped or what led to a deliverability issue, you can look back at the data and look for trend data on specific days. The goal is to identify the campaign, lists, or strategies that may have changed or been added during that time that may have led to a degradation in sender repetition or delivery results. Often a shift in policy or approach is what leads to deliverability challenges. Correlating those policies along with enforcing email best practices as you see them develop will help keep your program out of negative email deliverability challenges. In addition to mailbox provider tools, if you work with an email service provider, there are some tools within the application that you can utilize to help track deliverability trends, even specific to individual mailbox providers like Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail. With Amazon SES, you have the ability to choose between several ways to build the dashboards and ingest your email event traffic and bounce data. I have included links to those resources in the summary below this video. SES does offer an out-of-the-box solution called Virtual Deliverability Manager VDM, which can help with data surfing and bounce analysis specific to the ISP level and can be filtered in many ways, like at the configuration set level and domain identity level. With VDM, you can see trends over timelines in a dashboard, which can help you catch bad trends early before they turn into lingering deliverability problems. Another benefit of VDM is that it looks at your verified sending identities to ensure proper DNS records are associated with your domains. So, if you are missing an authentication protocol for your domain, VDM Advisor will alert you of the missing DNS record so you are not finding out after a send and as a result of failed messages. For more on the SES Virtual Deliverability Manager feature, please review the links provided in the summary. Whether it's marketing, transactional, or other bulk email communications, deliverability tooling provides valuable insights into understanding how you are performing across multiple mailbox providers, which is a primary contributor to a healthy and long-term email program. In conclusion, monitoring email deliverability as a whole is important to maintain a healthy email program for any company. Understanding factors like user engagement data and how they impact your sender repetition across many mailbox providers is critical. With this information, you will be able to better understand what your recipients want to receive and how to best get those communication to them. Catching problems early on and limiting negative trends like a rise in complaint rate across a campaign or campaign series contributes to a healthy sender profile. When you have a positive sender repetition and you are getting high inbox placement, you can focus on the factors that differentiate your businesses to your customers and not to have to worry as much about email deliverability. Utilize the tools within your own application, whether that's in-house or with an email service provider, to monitor deliverability trends and performance. When available, set up dashboards on postmaster pages to track your repetition with the largest mailbox providers. At times, you may need to dig a bit further into the bounce data to figure out what the issue may be and how to resolve it. Having an application feature like VDM in SES can help track trends and service deliverability data, including individual message delivery results. When considering how you monitor your email feedback, you are not only looking at these factors for problems, but also opportunities. There may be times when you establish a great sender repetition, and you may want to follow that process as a template across many of your campaigns and sending domains. Once you have established good sender repetition, it's still important to monitor to ensure you are staying flat or even trending up. This is the end of the Amazon SES Email Deliverability Learning Series focused on monitoring email feedback. If you have any comments, please post them in the comments section below. Thank you for watching.